Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that despite all that is happening around us, you were able to have a good weekend and enjoy some of the sunshine that we were fortunate to have. I must tell you, I am really thankful that the dark days of winter are now behind us. As you are no doubt all aware, we are in a provincial state of emergency. While this continues to be an evolving situation, there are a few constants I want to remind you of. If you return to Canada, and now additionally, if you are entering this province by any mode of transit, you must self-isolate for 14 days. Going to the store is not self-isolating, and for those required to self-isolate from travel, there is now a $1,000 fine for violating this directive. I am frustrated by the people I am hearing of disregarding this. I can assure you that you will be reported to the authorities, you will be fined, and if you continue to defy this, you may be arrested. More importantly, though, you are risking the people in this community. Do not be that person, please. The same for social gatherings that are now limited to 5 or less. Hearing of large tournaments in the city that still went ahead on the weekend was just part of what has triggered these new changes. Disregarding this will also yield each person a $1,000 fine. I implore you to take this situation seriously, and I thank those that already are. As I said, we are in a state of emergency, in part because people didn't listen to Dr. Strang or the Premier. This is essentially the beginning of week 2, and this is where we're at. Week 2 of many weeks yet to come. I want you to think about that for a moment. Further disregard for their directives will simply mean further restrictions are put in place. The longer people disobey the protocols in place, the longer they will be in place. Want this over? Do your part. We can all do that. I want to share a little perspective I heard last week to hopefully drive home that point. Anne Frank spent 761 days hiding from the Nazis in a small space where she had to be silent most of the time. With the technology we have in 2020 and the options still available to us even during the state of emergency, like being able to go outside, there is no excuse for not following the rules now in place. Employers, social distancing is mandatory. Essential services, and you likely know who you are to work through Dr. Strang's office for guidance if you cannot follow these. Further to that, employers, you must listen to your employees if they have concerns, and you must work together to find solutions to keep the workplace safe. I've received a lot of messages from people asking what an essential business is or questioning why we can't just shut everything down. Please understand that it is the province, not the town, that determines what is essential and what is not. The province, through Dr. Strang, with all the resources and experts they have at their disposal, are making the decisions they feel are most appropriate each and every day. We know the situation is changing all the time, so we must allow them to do their job without us armchair quarterbacking this. As I have said before, we are going to be in this for some time, and we need to understand the impacts of decisions if weeks need to become months. It's simply not that easy to say, shut everything down for 2 weeks. And we need to trust Dr. Strang and his team and their guidance for what can remain open and what needs to close, and when. I've also received several messages with questions about going outside and what that means for them. Yes, you can go for a drive. Yes, you can take the people who live in the same home as you for a drive. We've all just needed to get out and maybe crank the tunes and belt out a song or two. We are, however, being asked not to drive to public spaces and then filling parking lots. Want to go to the trail? Please walk there. Stay in your neighborhood. Just a reminder, you cannot go to the beach. Every beach is now closed, and seeing a bunch of cars parked at Crescent Beach today is exactly what the Premier said is not allowed. This is why we are frustrated. This is why we are in a state of emergency. You aren't listening, and your disregard for since the state of emergency was put in place is putting entire communities at risk. Time to do better. While I said you can go for a drive, you're not to pick up friends or people not living in your home and take them with you. I want to make sure that's understood. Collecting friends and piling into a car is not to take place, nor is heading over with friends to hang out at someone's house. To families with more than 5 people, yes, you are allowed to be together. I don't want to hear of people calling the police because they see a family of 5 or 6 in a van going for a drive. A family that lives together is not considered social gathering. and so they can be together. That said, I also don't want to see families heading into grocery stores or other stores as a group. Where possible, designate one person to go shopping. If you have young kids, and that cannot be left alone, please try to find someone to get groceries for you if you can. Regarding the police, if you feel you need to contact them to report someone, it is not a 911 call. Also, please ensure your information is fact-based. Again, people have been calling the police reporting families out for a walk or a drive. If you are unsure of their situation and you are comfortable, you may want to ask them before making any assumptions. The police still need to take care of the day-to-day of what happens in our community, and we want to be mindful we aren't overrunning them with calls when we aren't sure of the situation. That doesn't mean never call. If you are sure and need to report someone for a state of emergency violation, please use the non-emergency number posted online. If you live outside of Bridgewater, I would implore you to please call the RCMP. Our trails remain open, and I know some are wondering why. In Bridgewater, our trails are an extension of our sidewalk system, and many of those trails are in fact 2 or 3 times wider. Dr. Strang has explained the importance of getting outside because, again, we are in this for the long haul. We expect people on the sidewalks and trails to practice social distancing and are pleased to see that they are. If people are not following social distancing protocols, then we will have to consider closure of the trails. If you have a yard, then you can enjoy staying at home, and that becomes the perfect option. But remember, not everyone can do that. Please understand that we are making decisions with all the information and resources at our disposal, and that information is changing constantly. While some will disagree, and of course you absolutely can, slamming decision makers at any level isn't overly helpful at this time. I will say almost everyone is being respectful, so thank you for that. That's the dad part of my talk for today, and I want to thank everyone taking this seriously and doing their part. Today, the federal government announced additional flights to repatriate Canadians stuck abroad, and I want to thank those who have offered words of encouragement after I shared that my mother is still stuck in Portugal. Wednesday is what she's been told is her next option to leave, and while this will be her 4th attempt, we are praying that it is one that actually leaves, and so that she can return to her home in Ontario. If you are also waiting for family to get home, please know that you're not alone. The federal government also announced an additional $5 billion in lending for Canadian farmers and $192 million to work on vaccine development, testing, and deployment. I posted links to the top of my Facebook page to the various programs and services being rolled out by the federal and provincial governments, and would encourage you to look there for information from sources that have already been vetted. In addition to the state of emergency from the province of Nova Scotia yesterday, Dr. Strang announced that there were 13 additional cases of COVID-19, all related to travel or proximity to travelers. Cases will continue to increase, but as I've said before, the measures in place will work if we all do our part. Community spread has not yet appeared, and again, if we all do our part, we can minimize this when it does begin. Locally, I know there have been some questions about taxes. I want you to know this is something we have and will continue to have on our council agenda as we look for all options available to us. Tax bills go out at the end of April and are due at the end of May, and so we have some time to work with the province and our municipal colleagues on next steps. As I conclude, I want to take a moment and speak to the people who are worried, anxious, and perhaps struggling with things these days. That's most of us. Really and truly it is, and you need to know that you are not alone. It's fine to feel those things, so please don't feel ashamed or as if this is somehow a sign of weakness. I want you all to do me a favor. Each day, I want you to put your device in airplane mode for a bit, take a step outside if you can, and take a deep breath of fresh air. Disconnect for a few moments each day. Maybe use that time to call someone on the phone or play a board game with your kids or your partner. Disconnect and take a moment to recharge yourself. Parents, I know you're worried about your kids. I just want to say that you're doing a great job. This is new for all of us. There's no handbook to follow for this situation, so just keep doing what you're doing. You've got this. I know you do. I want to ask those in our community who know of people who perhaps just became new parents to reach out to them and see how they're doing. On top of what we're all going through, they will need your love and support more than ever. We need to continue to lift each other up. We need to remain united because we are so much stronger together. Our local grocers continue to receive daily shipments, and you've been awesome at checking on neighbors and friends to see if you can get the things that they need when you go out. Keep that up. You are really making a difference. I also want to give a big shout out to the people sharing ideas from other communities. One of the great ideas that I've seen and would like to invite the people of Bridgewater to try is the one-way sidewalk. What does that mean? Well, whenever you're out walking and there are sidewalks on both sides of the street, I encourage you to try to walk in the same direction as the flow of traffic. This will keep pedestrians from crossing paths face to face and will help support social distancing protocols. Additionally, for the trail that loops around the duck pond at Woodland Gardens, I invite people to walk clockwise around the pond to similarly encourage social distancing. We'll soon have signs on the site encouraging this practice too. It's voluntary, but it's a small effort that you can make to help stifle the spread of COVID-19. I want to thank those working and volunteering to ensure our vital programs and services are still running. I know it's not an easy time to get up and head to work or help, but please know that our community thanks you very much. I will continue to post daily and do my best to answer your questions, and I continue to be appreciative of the love and support of my family in this community. Stay healthy, and God bless.